Hello and welcome back everybody, I'm OneProudBavarian and this is Through the Darkest of Times, episode number 3, and it is still the year 1933. We have tried our best to undermine the regime, but the regime has been taking more and more power as they go. After the fire in the Reichstag yesterday, well not yesterday, but in the last episode I should say, so 2 days ago, and I think a couple of weeks in-game, we are in a situation where we are being pushed further and further back, and hopefully Johanna here will not lead us into a very dangerous pitfall. You know, she has a husband and a working situation that, and I think even a brother, right? Wasn't it everything? I don't know, that are all associated with the NSDAP now, and while I trust her, because she is a communist and hopefully diametrically opposed to National Socialism, we are looking at a situation where we are under fire, in a bit of heat. We don't want the Gestapo to find us, but either way, let's take a look at the news yet again just to check what is going on. New Ministry of Propaganda. Joseph Goebbels founds the Ministry for Public Enlightenment and Propaganda, and what a name that is, you know? Joseph Goebbels was, I think, a person that kind of led to a new age of propaganda, with a new understanding of how technology to be used. I mean, the entire propaganda machine of the Nazis would not have worked if not for the greater availability of reaching people with the propaganda, because newspapers of course is one thing, and that is something that they took over and took control of very, very quickly, but then you also have the radio and you have the cinema. The cinema back in the day, very different. People would go to the cinema to actually watch something like, you know, a bit of a news kind of flash, a news flash that was prepared, interestingly enough, I think every week. I believe it was on a weekly basis. And it's hard to imagine because that of course has not been the point of cinemas in quite some time, but it was something that contributed very, very greatly to the idea of being able to push whatever the regime wanted. Now let's take a look at the Rundschau. All SPD newspapers banned. Bremer Volkszeitung and Schwäbische Tagwacht are the latest SPD newspapers that closed down due to being banned. And I think we can see the result of that right over here. Voran, communists pushed from parliament. Using the powers of the new Reichstag fire decree, the Nazis removed Communist Party members from the seats they won in the election. What is this? Can't click it. I was thinking this is like a secret letter, but I can't actually open it, so probably nothing. As you can see, we are being pushed back further and further, and by we I mean the entirety of the opposition. Arthur here has 3 blips. I'm not too happy about that. I think honestly, before we do anything else, let's just make sure that Arthur gets some rest, and by God, it's costly. If I just have him do nothing for a week, does that also bring this down? I don't know. What I really want though is the workshop over here. Set up a workshop will give us a good amount of, you know, work. Johanna Kleiner tells us about a remote garage that we could use to set up a workshop for the group. So if we set up a workshop here, we could print books, print leaflets, print critical leaflets, and build a fire device. So the way I see it, this speeds up everything that we do and hopefully also makes it cheaper. Last time we did some leaflets, that was quite the extensive work that we had to before, and so I think what we want to do this time around is just gather as much money as we can. Our supporters among the workers in Lichtenberg might be willing to help us out with some donations. Okay, what are we looking at here? We need some propaganda and charisma. And no, actually this is empathy and propaganda. I'm not bad at it. You're terrible at empathy. And also, of course, we need someone that is more left-leaning or just simply, you know, a worker. And that's a pretty high chance. If I can... How about you? Okay, let's just bring Inka here, and Inka alone, she will get a bike. Why would I... Oh, I guess he exchanged the risk there. Let's just hope that she doesn't screw up, okay? We can't have more than one person go there at every single opportunity. See, Arthur would be so perfect for all of these because he's a carpenter. But I think, Johanna, you will have to do, should I send myself here? Maybe. It just doesn't bring that much money, all things considered. I'm gonna go with Johanna alone for the moment, because I might also, we're sitting at 44 supporters, if we could get some more supporters that would also be great. What is the, ah yeah, right, somebody's already in there. Meet a former unionist. If we could recruit some people, this is Christian community, what are you again? Hitler, Satan, I'm sure the Holy Father in Rome will see this. Antonia, you know, the history and the relation between the Catholic Church, of course, and the Nazis is a very difficult one. Eventually, they will have to let us participate in elections again. We are way too many being ignored. I don't think it's going to happen, Inka. But the relationship between the church, of course, between both churches, the Catholic and the Protestant church, or well, Protestant churches, was a very difficult one. A very, very difficult one. But I assume that the game will get to that, so let's skip over that topic for the moment. Eventually, they... Oh, you know, Guido, That is me. You should be a bit smarter than that. You shouldn't assume that they will let us in again. Gesine Irre, what a cool name, means insane. Knows a former trade unionist who might be willing to support our cause. Gesine Irre. What a name. Yeah, look at that. Okay. And we're going to meet with them, and this will gain us one per... Meet with conservatives. A morale. We don't really need a morale boost, I will tell you. I need something that brings us more people. That's what I care about. Unlocks, spread books. Ooh, that is interesting. Meet an academic. Aren't you an academic? And Catholic conservative as well. Harmful and helpful. We don't really have any of these, do we? No inspiring people? Who else do we have? Meet an academic. Former unionist. The Nazi views are anti-Christian. They are driven by hate. Jesus would have wanted us to stand up against them. Of course he would have. Former trade unionist. I don't think there's much difference here. Some unlock further meet someone actions, and some unlock actual actions like spread leaflets. You know what? Let's just go to you. This will have a very high chance of success. And then why don't we go to you? This will spread books. You should be good at this. Why are you so bad, yo? No, I'm not interested in either of those. Let's just try it. And with that, we are done with our preparation. Let's go. Yes, I would like to progress. Our supporters donated 13 marks to our group. We lost 2 supporters. That kind of sucks, of course. Inke Grieger visits the group's known supporters among workers. She's successful. People are upset about the latest atrocities of the regime and are willing to help the group. Look at that, 34 bucks. Oh, that is so good. And bicycle +1. I think we just got the bicycle back, right? But like, the bicycle is not a one-use item. I assume if she got caught, it would be lost. Furious about the way the regime has limited workers' rights and is willing to support us wherever he can. Guido thinks he has been seen. No, not me. You cannot get me. Now the way, and this is quite interesting, I just want to go into this for a couple of seconds, not really too long, but the way the Nazis reorganized labor law was indeed quite drastical because it was a top-down system. The entire relationship between employment and everything related to that when it comes to, you know, for example, what is an employment relationship? What is an employee? What are the duties of an employer? It was all very top-down. The leadership principle applied to it. And without going too much into this, because this is definitely something that, you know, there would have to be some academic reading done to fully go into the topic. But the way it was organized was much less liberal, and liberal not, you know, in like a social liberal, just in the sense of how many powers do the parties have individually, was much less liberal, more paternalistic than anything that came beforehand. And spoilers, the Federal Republic of Germany after 1949 kept those definitions going. That is because, of course, you know, if we follow Konrad Adenauer, the first Chancellor of the Republic, he said, you know, asked about Nazis both in the administration and in just civil life, he said, you can't throw out the dirty water if you don't have any fresh water. And much of the intelligentsia, or intelligentsia, I don't know how to pronounce it actually in English, but much of the intelligentsia of the German Republic later on was, well, you know, those that weren't too terrible, but still were accommodated well in the Nazi Reich. So, So, at the end of the day, much of the impact that was created by the legal thoughts and legal assumptions we kind of cut into that last episode with Carl Schmitt were kept for the Federal Republic and only pushed out later on. For us, the year 1968, you know, I know this is like an international year, but the 68 year and the movement behind it was very much kind of geared towards those Nazis in academic positions. There was this very famous kind of slogan. It was Unter den Talaren Muff von 1000 Jahren. And it essentially means that, you know, the 1000-year Reich, and those people that served in it were still in the uniforms of the not of the society. We live in one, by the way, of the universities. It was a very interesting time period because, again, in West Germany, there was barely any switch from, you know, the leadership that existed to later on. It was a very strange time. It is incredibly complex when it comes to the analysis of the years, of the first 30 years after World War II, because so much was left intact. Arthur Friedrich, when he returns, it feels much safer than before. Very nice. Morale plus 10. Oh wow, this really boosts morale. Oh, why are you suspicious, you son of a gun? I don't know. I don't want to flee. I want the money, yo. Stay calm and move on. Come on, get out of here. You gotta be kidding me. I have never gotten lucky with hiding, I gotta be honest with you. Antonia Hagelstein meets with an academic from Spandau. She says they're more like her in Spandau. It turns out that she despises the regime for its irrationality and cruelty. See, I don't actually know how this hide mini game works, because we haven't ever had it work out for us. And we got a couple more supporters. We got 6 morale. Quite okay. The day of Potsdam. A ceremony for the opening of the new Reichstag was held in the Church of Potsdam and broadcast in its entirety on radio. The festivities began with religious services, and the evening celebrations ended with a torchlight parade and a performance of Wagner at the Berlin State Opera with Hitler in attendance. You know, the involvement of the Wagner family was quite significant in the Nazi not just in the Nazi leadership of the Reich after 33, but also beforehand. Hitler himself was a guest during the Wagner festivities in Bayreuth, which are, by the way, still going on today. Well, you know. As I said in one of the previous episodes, I do believe that in general civil society adapts, I want to say, very quickly to circumstances of a new status quo, even if that is very unfortunate for the reality they now live in. Trade war with Czechoslovakia. As a trade war between Czechoslovakia and Germany is looming, Berlin shuts down all payments and travel between the two nations. Labor camp opened. The Nazis opened a place in Dachau to retain dissidents, calling it a concentration camp. The first concentration camp in Dachau, as you can see, founded very early on into the Nazi regime, and indeed it would not be the last labor camp, but I assume that we're gonna get to that later. Inka Grieger tells me she's pregnant. I can't go on like this. I'm worried it will harm the baby, she says. I want to leave the group. Inka, honestly, you've served us well, but I understand. I do understand. It'll be hard to replace you, but we will find a solution. Best of luck to you and the little one. She seems relieved and leaves the headquarters. End of scene. And we lost Inka. The trade war with Czechoslovakia, of course, very early on the German Reich saw a lot of resistance after the Nazis took over when it comes to economic relationships. There was a lot of strain put onto them, and of course the religious authorities not being on board with it did not help them. Have you heard the rumors about the camps they are opening? They are arresting comrades and Jews and let them starve and work to death. What does this mean? Spread books? Sell books? Steal SA uniform. Observe. Ah, okay, so if we had books, I could go on. Why do I need books to do this? I don't think I do. Required skill, literacy, the common knowledge of a character. Why does this unlock that? The librarian Hans Schmidt knows people who would be interested in our books and offers help distributing them. I don't know why, but this, okay, clearly, you know, kind of needs it. Set up a hideout. Oh, let's go. Ooh, okay, okay. So we desperately want to go towards the book route. If I'm not mistaken, the workshop can print books? Yes, okay. So we need a workshop, meaning we need more money. We almost have enough. We lack $1. Are you kidding me? The rumors about these labor camps are upsetting. Excuse me. Oh, look at that. I didn't even know this. Home to Berlin's telecommunications office, several cooperative settlements and allotment communities. Oh, I had no idea that. Look at that. Home of the Central Airport and the UFA movie studios. Alright, what Hitler's Satan, right? We've talked about this numerous times. I think we want to gather more money, and I would like it if we could actually get, you know, another proper member. That would be lovely. What is this? Ah, right, we could go to the Dancing Giraffe, but we have so much morale, we don't have to do it. I want to do it eventually, just because it is an interesting topic in itself. But that's okay. Let's meet a former unionist, I suppose. Yeah, I can do that. Easy. What is this? Find a new member, hell yeah. Ah, but it costs so much money! Why are you doing me dirty like this? This sucks. I don't want to find a new member. Say, I want money. That's really as simple as it is. Ah, that doesn't work, eh? Man, there's so much risk attached to this, but I need a new member. Listen, I'm sorry, I need more money, I mean. There's so much goddamn risk attached to this. And we're losing members steadily now. Very, very steadily, in fact. The risk, why is the risk so high? You know what, let's just listen in for a new member here. Sure. Even if I can't... Then again, you know what, screw this, we're not doing this. Why don't you try to gather some money? Aren't you good at this? Pretty decent. So, you know what? Let's hope this goes well. I want a new member, I want money, and then we're gonna have the workshop next week. Inca going is horrible for our group's organization, I'll be honest with you. Not very good. We lost 2 supporters, of course. Our supporters donated 13 marks. Oh. Okay, how did these go? Please. Of course, the police! Oh, God, no. Yeah, I'm running. Let's get out of here. Please. The mission has been aborted, but he has not been seen. Oi, oi, oi. Dedicated supporters. She picks 3 Yushing. Okay, very, very nice. Social Democrat, Catholic, Conservative. Looks good. Look at that. He has strength. We rarely ever see strength here. And again, they all have like 3 strength. Who cares? I still think we're gonna go with Hans Reck. Gesine Schimmel. What a name. Gesine Mold. I'm sorry. It's just the names are very nice. I think we're gonna go with Hans Reck. I honestly don't know what stats we actually need. We have a very good propagandist. I think some empathy would be nice. And having a social democrat also vibes well with the group. Then again, maybe we're at this point more a Catholic group than we were beforehand. I don't know, let's go into this. Guido Bach visits the group's known supporters among workers. He's successful, let's go, give me the money. Okay, we might actually, I'll be honest with you. Every time when I return to this save, I'm fairly afraid. Because this is the save, right, where there is no save. This is an Iron Man save, so to speak, and if we lose, we lose. So every move that I make is indeed, hopefully something that doesn't destroy us. Enabling Act grants Hitler legislative powers. The new parliament passes the Enabling Act despite the objections of the Social Democrats. The act allows Hitler to create new laws, even change the constitution without parliamentary consent. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the death of the Weimar Constitution. From there on out, people debate whether the Third Reich was the same as the Weimar Republic, or whether it was a completely different construct because of the constitution practically being non-existent in, you know, its form. In 1949, the constitution that came afterwards, and the constitution that I earlier on called a much better one, is essentially protecting itself against any of this. This would, legally speaking, be impossible in the constitution. In the Weimar Republic, and I kind of cut this open as well, there was the idea whether the constitutional law should be special or not, whether it should be more difficult to amend it, and whether it, you know, even could be more difficult to amend it, because it wasn't quite clear what constitutes, well, a constitution. In 1949 and in the current constitution, it is quite clear. We can amend it. It is much more difficult to amend it in comparison to creating a new law and changing a new law. But there are some aspects to the federal constitution, to the basic law as it is called, which is no different than a constitution, just the name, it differs. But there are some differences there where certain rights, for example, the rights to human dignity, the right to, free press and so on, they cannot be revoked. It is impossible to revoke them. Some of the organization of the state cannot be changed, but, and this is the interesting part about it, I don't think it will ever come to pass, because it would be quite difficult to do, but the very last article of the German current constitution makes it so that if there was a referendum about it, this constitution would deactivate itself in case a new constitution was accepted. Now, in the Weimar Republic, or at this time in the game, none of this was a thing. People weren't even sure how a constitution were to work. I mean, you have to realize that in 1933, when this happens, Germany has only been a democracy for about, what, like, and now I actually have to do math, like 13 years? We're not even talking about an entire generation. People were not used to the idea of a constitution, of a democracy, and what it meant, because Germany, until then, had always been organized in a top-down fashion. To understand Germany, one has to understand that no revolution that Germany has ever done has truly been successful. And what I mean by this is, in 1848-49, the revolution that could have led to a unified Germany failed, was destroyed by everyone getting together, by the old powers getting together and suppressing it. The Prussian king rejected the German emperorship by saying, "I do not accept the crown from the gutter." The unification of Germany occurred in 1871 from the top down. It happened because Bismarck and the Prussians pushed towards unifying Germany. There was no proper unifying revolution that did it as they did it in many other countries. And then in 1918, 1919, they did have a successful revolution, but the revolution practically ended with a republic that created a presidential office that was as powerful as the emperor himself was beforehand. So we are talking about a situation where the Germans are simply not used to the idea of democracy. And this is a cultural thing, and this is a thing that historically has been kind of pushed deeper and deeper into the mindset of Germans, and made it fairly easy to, you know, make the idea of disabling a constitution normal, because at the end of the day, hey, we just have a new leader now, and that new leader should be able to do whatever he wants, right? that was of course something that was very enabling towards letting dictatorship rise. The system question, whether, you know, you want to be a democracy, a dictatorship on the right or the left side, had not been answered at that time in 1949. Then it was fully answered, where democracy says we will not accept anything other than democracy, and if you want to try and go get rid of the constitution, then the constitution has powers to get rid of you. That is really the lesson learned from, you know, Hitler's grab of power, how futile the resistance was on the constitutional level. And again, Carl Schmitt here in this role of enabling the Nazis by saying the constitution has no special role and should be being disabled whenever the supreme leader wants it. Anyway, I'm losing kind of... we're so slow today with progress. Let's go to Rundschau. Goebbels wants to drain the swamp. Goebbels announces a political purge of public broadcasting and media. Starting April 1st, the German radio station will broadcast an hour of the nation daily from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. And I just want to point out, before anyone says, hey, is the game, you know, is this modern criticism? It might be, I'll be honest with you, but Goebbels did use this language. Period. There's just nothing else to it. The modern parallels that you might see as, you know, pandering or whatever, it's just the language used. So I think we all should come to terms with that being a thing that is said by people that like the idea of, you know, looking a bit grander, I think, than they otherwise would. Hitler. Jews are safe here. Hitler rejects the accusations in foreign newspapers. There's no danger to Jews in Germany. Fake news. Now, the thing about this is, about Hitler and the Nazis and the relationships with the Jews and with foreign countries, that very early on there was a resistance movement. Well, actually, it is kind of split. There was a resistance movement within the Jews throughout the world and in Germany, and then there was a movement that said, you know what, let's not do anything because that would just make the life of Jews in Germany harder. Which ultimately led to a split opposition, as it often did. The entire politics of appeasement, of course, are based on the split opposition not being sure whether they should oppose the Nazis or not, and I think it is similar. You just say Jews are safe here, and with that being said, people will argue about it. People say maybe they are safe. Before the meeting, Arthur Friedrich seems distracted and unusually quiet. Arthur has been very suspicious of Johanna, which makes him suspicious as far as I'm concerned. He looks up at you. It's my wife. She never came home last night. What if the... oh god. What if the SR took her? What if she is in prison right now? We will absolutely help you, Arthur. We're in this together, I tell Arthur. We're going to search for her and we're going to find her. Is that a mission that I can do now? Search for the wife of Arthur Friedrich. Okay. Let's do that. Absolutely. Yeah. How much money is that? Good god, do I have that money? 30 bucks. I will do it, listen. Absolutely, Anna. You must be saved. It pains me because we then can still not go and actually do what we need to do with the workshop, but... Wait, what stats does this one? Catholics, huh? Not the right form of Catholic, it appears. Curious. Secrecy and empathy. He has very good empathy. This looks good. Maybe one bicycle? Sure. And then the rest, I guess, just gathers money and supporters. Talk to the Christian community. We do still have one Christian here, so let's take a look at this. Priest. Oh yeah, look at that. Very nice. And then the rest, I suppose, just goes and gathers some money. Yeah, look at that. Alright. We lost 2 supporters, we got 13 bucks. How did this go? Peace. Quite a few think that Hitler's way is against God, and that is that as a Christian they should do something about our situation. Others have doubt because Hitler might still be God's will. We're successful, let's go. Okay. Oh wow, that was the maximum payout. We really needed that. We really needed that. Ansrek talks to our contacts. Oh god, of course. I guess enforce. I actually do not know what it means. I just don't know. Let's do it, whatever it takes. Alright. He learns that the SR has captured someone that fits the description of our member's wife. See, I still don't get the hide minigame. I just do not understand. Arthur Friedrich has been seen. It is Saturday, and I am on my way to buy groceries for the weekend. When I see the shop in the distance, I can already tell that something is up. In front of the building, a crowd of people is gathered, including a few men wearing the brown uniform of the SR. I approach the store to see what's going on. 3 brown shirts stand around the entrance of the shop, holding signs with anti-Semitic slogans. A Star of David, and the word Jew are painted on the shop window. Deutsche wehrt euch, Germans, rise up, I suppose, or defend yourself. Do not buy from Jews. Watch out, Jews. Watch out, Germans. The Jewish owners are parasites to the German people. The owner of this business is named Nathan Schmidt, Jew. And this is the same as over there. I guess they translate it here as well. Germans, fight back, don't buy from Jews, and attention Germans, these Jewish shop owners are parasites of the German community. See, the thing about these boycotts is that it's a really difficult topic. Back in the day, obviously, I think what one needs to see is that anti-Semitism has been a part of European populism for ages. For a very, very long time. For so many centuries. But before World War II, or rather before Adolf Hitler came to power, the idea that Jews could be Germans was not foreign to anyone. During World War I, there were many Jews, well, Jewish Germans, because they did view themselves as Germans, that fought in the forces and viewed themselves as Germans, and were viewed as Germans. Only afterwards, once anti-Semitism was on the rise because of 1923 and 1929, so the big 2 economic crises, 1923 with the hyperinflation and then 1921 with the worldwide crisis, only later on was the idea further moved into the center of society where Jews supposedly could not be Germans at all. And I want to point out one thing, and this is actually important to me. I thought about this, whether I should bring it up, but I do think I should. Because we should talk about these sort of things because they are in modern day. So a modern day neo-Nazi talking point is that these boycotts that we're seeing here in the game and that we saw historically were only a response to Jewish boycotts. There is even this infamous newspaper headline from the Daily Express, and you can see that the British Boulevard Press was not better back in the day than it is today. But that infamous newspaper headline that reads, Judea declares war against Germany. And that never happened, of course. What happened was that Jews over the world had an international debate when it comes to how to react to the Nazis taking power in Germany. And there was a part of the Jewish community internationally that said we should boycott them. We have to strong-arm them now before anything happens to the community in Germany. And they said that an attack on the Jews in Germany is of course an attack on all Jews, because that's exactly what it is. Those people weren't attacked for being German or whatever, they were attacked for being the Jews. And another part of that community said we shouldn't do this because this, and I think I brought this up earlier as well, this would very much inconvenience and give more hardship to the lives of Jews in Germany. Now, the talking point of the neo-Nazis is that it was a just retribution against the Jews by the Nazis. Of course, it is rather ludicrous because the harassment of the Jews had begun long beforehand of the Nazis, but the reality of the matter is as well that we have to ask ourselves, and we have to take a look around, I think, today, and don't, you know, just take this as a general kind of idea, not as an immediate plot point that you need to put into your life, but I think we have to ask ourselves, when is it just to react to things? Because there were people back in the day that said the Jews, you know, kind of started this. There were people today that say the same thing. But the reality is that the idea that the Nazis would have incredibly poisonous, incredibly toxic and hostile policies towards the Jews, which ultimately would either go to expulsion or, you know, the genocide that did occur in the end, this idea was not new. The Nazis had made it very, very public that the Jews were their enemies, in whatever form that was, as this collective, as this ominous collective, the Jews, whatever that meant. And of course, at this point in time, there had been no genocide. But the genocide was not something that we would have to look at and be like, oh, this is incredibly outlandish. People back in the day still said, oh, this is never going to happen. The way I see it, what we can learn from this situation is that when we have someone and they tell us clearly who they are and what they want to do, that we should believe them and take matters into our own hands in this respect. We should pull consequences. That's very German, I think. We should take consequences, or we should create consequences rather, you know. There are genocides going on right now. there are situations in the world where it becomes apparent that people have the intention of expelling or genociding a people or a group of people. And much like back in the day, it becomes apparent fairly early on. The question is just, are we willing and able to act early on? Are we willing to recognize that communities that are under threat of genocide, reacting to that threat by, you know, for example, initiating a boycott like the part of the Jewish community that did it against the Nazis, are we willing to recognize that we may have to assist them and not just stand by and say, oh, don't escalate it? It is a question, I think, that we often forget because we don't recognize that people are people, no matter the times, and people can be swamped up in accusations against different groups today as they could yesterday. I just wanted to address, I think, the particular talking point of supposedly these boycotts being deserved, which on closer observation cannot be phrased that way, knowing the circumstances of the Jews even in 1933. One could argue, oh, it wasn't apparent back then, they just, you know, did it preemptively, and the Nazis were the true victims. Of course they were not. It was very, very obvious where the Nazis would take their politics towards the Jewish population. Even of those, of course, that were well respected within Germany, so much so that even during the war, the Nazis had to kind of play up a nice face to their own population, because many people regarded German Jewish war heroes as war heroes instead of what the Nazis wanted them to see as. I think it was a time where, with earlier resistance, a lot could have been stopped. And of course, hindsight is 2020, but maybe we should take this kind of as an implication for modern day politics on the international and the national and every scale, really. It's just the usual ramblings. A woman tries to enter the shop, but one of the brown shirts sends her away. I look at the people who are watching the scene. Speak to a mother holding a child by the hand. Do you know what's going on? I ask. The girl holding her mother's hand looks at me and smiles. She might be around 5 years old. No, the mother shakes her head, and I don't want to know. She takes the girl and moves down the street. I wonder who to talk to next. Can you tell me what all of this is about? I ask a man wearing a suit. He looks like he doesn't belong in this part of town. Shh, he says, and gives me an angry look. I lower my voice and ask again, what's going on here? Why are they attacking this shop? It's happening everywhere, the man says. I came from Friedrichstraße. It's the same there. They're standing in front of every Jewish shop, doctors, lawyers, you name it. I have no idea what they're planning. Some of these places have been around for decades. What are you doing here? Actually, I'm supposed to do business with Mr. Schmidt, the owner of this shop, but it doesn't look like it will happen today, so I guess I'll go. He turns around and walks away. I look at the people who are watching the scene. What's happening here? I ask the elderly woman. Those Jews are getting what they deserve, she answers. One of the SS-Armen is looking at me. What do you mean? They are enemies, the woman yells, throwing wild gestures. They are sucking us dry. Who do you think gets all the money Germany must pay for these reparations? That's right, the Jews get all the money. But now we will strike back. Now it's time for them to pay. Not enough. The sentiment that the reparations, that all of this was instigated by an ominous network of Jews was something that was very easy to abuse. But was, you know, infused daily, on the daily, into the new news cycle that the Nazis had created at the time. It was very, and even today I think it is very hard to resist a news cycle that keeps pushing a narrative in whatever direction that goes. It is very, very difficult, because the more you see things around you, the more you accept them as the new status quo. Yes, Arthak start to chant, Germany to the Germans, get out Jews. Let's talk to them. What are you doing here? I ask one of the SS-Armen. What does it look like to you? Don't know. I'm really afraid that they're gonna, like, immediately catch us here. You, says the leader of the group. Watch out or you'll regret it. He comes closer. Alright. I don't want any trouble. Wake up, Germany, they shout. I don't think I can enter this shop, but I do want to see what the game does. I approach the shop and try to enter, but one of the brown shirts blocks my path. Where do you think you're going? He barks. Without looking at him, I walk into the shop. It's dark inside the shop, and my eyes need a moment to adjust. There's someone in the back. Are you alright? Could I buy something? Hello, says a female voice. Are you sure you want to do that? I don't think the men outside will appreciate if you buy anything here. I don't care what they say. You know what? Let's do it. At the end of the day, if we don't resist, if we just always cower away, then what's the point of this resistance group? I need groceries and I'm buying them here. As you wish, she steps to the counter. What do you need? I give her my list and she puts everything in a bag. I hand her the money. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry for everything they've done to you, I say. She doesn't respond. I leave the shop with my groceries. The brown shirts give me a hateful look, but don't stop me. Go home. As I carry my groceries home, I think about what I just saw. The signs, the brown shirts, the bystanders, and that poor shopkeeper. Where's this all going? I feel sick when I get home. Things in this country are only getting worse. We must be careful. Many things are hard to find these days, so it's great we know Nathan, a storekeeper who has the right connections, and could get us some stuff, I assume. Difficult times. Our morale dropped slightly. Got a few more supporters. Jewish businesses boycotted. The Nazis organized a day-long boycott of Jewish businesses across Germany. Himmler promoted. Heinrich Himmler is appointed police commissioner of Bavaria. Heinrich Himmler. There's too much to say about that absolute monster. And no, this is not, oh, you know, calling him a monster. No. Heinrich Himmler was an absolute monster. He was the one that organized the Holocaust and, without a doubt, believed in it. 10,000 Prussians arrested. Since February, Prussian police and SR have arrested more than 10,000 people and taken into protective custody. There isn't enough space in regular prisons. Many are kept in makeshift camps. The Great Purge has begun. And it only means, you know, when we're witnessing this, this is essentially the steps that a dictatorship needs to do, of course. Although I do think that today, in modern day, I think it would be harder. But back in the day, I mean, think about it. Again, just to kind of reel in that point, Germany was a very patriarchal, a very paternalistic, that's the word that I was looking for, a very paternalistic society. People were used to being in a situation where someone was telling them what to do. You know, back in the day, Bismarck did it with the health insurance. Of course, the health insurance in Germany was created by Bismarck, by the conservatives. It was not a thing that, for example, the Social Democrats created. We had situations in corporations in Germany, you know, ThyssenKrupp, all of those very common corporations where they essentially said, if you work for me, if you follow me, if you do not join the Socialists or the Social Democrats, you will get health insurance, you will get benefits, etc., etc. But if you just think about it, of going behind my back and doing anything about it, you will lose all of this. It was a society where people were very much willing to follow the idea of, you know, their overlord taking care of them and them just not having the right to say anything, you know, to rebel in any way whatsoever. And I think that people back in the day that weren't exactly against the Nazis, that kind of just arranged themselves with the status quo, said, well, if it is necessary that those people need to go into those camps, then so be it. You know, they must have a reason for it. It was I think, symptomatic of the top-down culture that Germany has had for centuries at that point. They fired me. I lost my job, says Antonia Hagelstein. What happened? I think someone overheard me speaking with a colleague about voting for the Communist Party in the last election. Why would you talk about that when the Nazis are... Come on. This is horrible. I don't even know where to find the money for food next week, or for rent next week, or food. You know what? We're gonna take care of you, Antonia. We'll give you some money until you find something new. I will give you 50 because we can then still build the workshop. The group can support you until you find something new. Antonia smiles when I hand her 50 mark and seems relieved. Alright, I think we can do one more. And I know we're already 40 minutes in, but let's just build the workshop here. What do we need here? Nothing. We need 3? No, just 1. Actually, level 5? What does that even mean? Why would I have more than 1 in here? I don't know. Let's just take a look. What is this stuff? Visit a museum. Gives me more morale. We don't really need morale. Visit Nathan's store. Free wife of Arthur Friedrich. Oh, that is absolutely necessary. We learned where the SR has illegally detained the wife of one of our members. The police won't help us. We have to deal with this ourselves. Alright, we need secrecy. Doubtful past. Athlete. Reckless. Violent. We don't have any of those. We do not have any of those. We have some decent secrecy stats, I suppose. Yeah, we're gonna send 3 people here. Good God, the risk. I highly doubt the intel will help us here. Yeah, let's leave some leaflets as well. Jesus, no. Okay, wait a minute. I just want to make sure that we use the characters with the highest secrecy, and indeed we are already. Jesus, this is... Oh God. What are you? Paranoid? Wait, who's paranoid? Oh, Arthur himself is paranoid. Well, I guess not. Yeah, sure. Ugh. This is not gonna be nice. This is not gonna be good. Arthur, why don't you do this one? And then you could go and pick up... What is you're a social democrat, right? You're traumatized. Yes, they will surely let us participate again. I don't know what traumatized exactly means, but by medicine, I feel like we could need some more supporters. Meet a former unionist, that sounds alright for him. Yeah, there you go. Let's try to help Mrs. Friedrich. Oh God. ESR show up. Oh my God, somebody could die here. No, let's hide. ESR are retreating. Got an achievement, freedom here. I haven't even read the text, so let's hope that this works. At night, Johanna Esser and Guido Buck meet in front of the ESR location where they are detaining Arthur Friedrich's wife. The ESR show up. Johanna Esser whispers, stay calm and move on. The ESR are retreating. While Johanna Esser keeps watch, Guido Buck breaks in, finds the wife, and they flee together. We did it. Arthur Friedrich rents a remote garage in Lichtenberg. We can use it to set up our own workshop there, where we print leaflets and build equipment for our missions. Man, I can't believe that this actually worked. Okay, very good. We gained the... Hans has been seen. Our morale went up very, very significantly, meaning we don't actually need to focus on morale at all. Jews and communists removed from service. Newly established laws for the restoration of the professional civil service. Jewish and communist-inclined workers are purged from the civil service. It is a very thorough purge that they did. Again, if you wanted to keep your head, and I mean this figuratively at least this time, you needed to duck down. And I mean, most people did. What are we supposed to say? They did indeed. Change in state governorship. New governors from the Nazi party are appointed to lead the German states. They changed all of this from another, again, top-down method. The top-down thing really is the significant thing that they established. The German states historically had a lot of power, of course. In particular, the states, you know, that joined up in the Kaiserreich after the North German Federation had already been founded. So, for example, Baden-Württemberg, or, well, Baden and Württemberg and Bavaria. But all of those were dissolved into the Gaus, into the... for example, Nordgau, you know, all that sort of stuff, which just means area of administration. They were dissolved and the powers were broken. Historically, even during the Kaiserreich, again, were very powerful. The German Constitution of 1871 suffered primarily from the fact that most of the rights and laws and whatnot were created inside of the states instead of at the central government. Back in the day, if you were a citizen of Bavaria and you would move, for example, to Saxony, your rights would change drastically because there was no common ground, no common core throughout Germany. Papen resigns. Papen resigns as Reichskommissar of Prussia. Papen, one of the conservatives, of course. Arthur Friedrich told us that he is getting married and we are all invited to the wedding. Despite these grim times, he has organized a big wedding party outside of the city at a lake in Brandenburg. I don't know, man. She's injured. Look at that. I guess we'll go. We just rescued his wife, after all. A celebration is just what we need, so I agree that we should join the wedding and celebrate together with Arthur Friedrich's friends and relatives. I just hope none of the guests recognize us for what we are. Alright, our morale is doing great. Member injured. What does that mean? Members can get injured during missions. This means they are weakened and might even die if injured again. They will get better over time, or you can heal them using a health pack. I understand. Oh, look at Arthur Friedrich. Yeah, he needs to hide. But at least, Jesus, there's so much going on this map. I'm gonna read that map during, or like in between episodes. I'm gonna see you all in the next episode. So far, I think we've done fairly okay. We freed his wife. We secured one of our members' income. Antonia will live and she will do fairly well. But we haven't done that well in undermining the regime. The regime has strengthened itself in every week. And what have we done? We haven't really protected anyone. We've at least got some connections, I guess, to the nightclub over here and to the shop that belongs to Nathan over there. But it's been difficult times so far. It has been a very difficult time indeed, and I will see all of you in the next episode, but I want to thank, of course, the members of the channel that are making these playthroughs possible, because there are, of course, no ads on this one, namely the Barons, Aaron, Stefan, the Richest T, Snywolf, and Emma Mamello, as well as the Count, Suspicious Duck, and Kiamelik 2, and last but not least, the Dukes, Benedict, Nathan, Knight of Squires, Kenneth, Lexo, Roboman, My Dad Left Me at Arby's, Eric, and Aiden. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next one. Later, alligator.